The name Vatican City evokes profound spirituality. Yet within its formidable walls, sealed archives, and holy ceremonies lie centuries of closely guarded mysteries, murmured tales, and disquieting truths. Today, we venture into the heart of this enigmatic city-state, a place of deep faith, but also a maze of ancient stones resonating with secrets that resist simple answers. Beyond the ornate exterior and sacred chants drift stories that send shivers down the spine. Ghostly apparitions in papal chambers, predictions that shape fates, and forbidden wisdom said to be concealed from the world. Prepare to uncover 16 of the most haunting and fascinating tales tied to these revered, yet perhaps fragile, walls. Are you ready to face the shadows? Let's dive in. The Vatican Necropolis and St. Peter's Tomb. Picture yourself in the grand expanse of St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican. Beneath the polished marble, towering dome, and splendid altar lies a concealed system, secret world, a necropolis from ancient Rome. This is the Vatican Necropolis. The story begins nearly 2 millennia ago. Vatican Hill was once a modest, marshy area outside Rome's main city, used for clay production and burials, near Emperor Nero's notorious circus, a place of spectacle and cruelty. Here, tradition says, the Apostle Peter, the fisherman Jesus named the foundation of his church, was martyred around 64 or 67 AD, crucified upside down. Under the cover of night, his followers buried him in a simple grave on Vatican Hill's public cemetery, fearing persecution. Fourths. System. For centuries, early Christians secretly visited Peter's grave, leaving prayers and inscriptions. By the 4th century, Emperor Constantine, a Christian convert, sought to honor Peter with a grand basilica built directly over his traditional burial site. This required leveling the hilly terrain, filling mausoleums and tombs with earth to create a flat platform for the original St. Peter's Basilica. The necropolis, rediscovered in the 1940s by Pope Pius XII's team, revealed a remarkably preserved Roman street with intricate mausoleums, mosaics, and inscriptions, buried by Constantine's ambitious construction. At its core, beneath the papal altar, they found a 2nd-century shrine with graffiti reading Petros Eni, meaning, Peter is here, and ancient bones wrapped in cloth, believed to be those of a robust man from the 1st century AD. In 1968, Pope Paul VI declared these relics convincingly identified as St. Peter's. The Vatican Necropolis is more than a cemetery, it's the spiritual and physical bedrock of St. Peter's Basilica, a testament to faith, martyrdom, ancient burial traditions, and Constantine's bold vision, unearthed after nearly 1,700 years. The Passetto di Borgo and hidden tunnels. For centuries, the Vatican has been a spiritual haven and a political stronghold, often entangled in conflict, intrigue, and peril. This necessitated robust security measures, including escape routes. The most famous of these is the Passetto di Borgo, a tangible piece of history, an elevated, fortified corridor stretching about half a mile from the Apostolic Palace to Castel Sant'Angelo, once Emperor Hadrian's mausoleum and later a papal fortress and prison. The Passetto's most infamous moment came during the sack of Rome in 1527, when Pope Clement VII fled through its narrow stone passage to the safety of Castel Sant'Angelo as mutinous troops overran the Vatican, slaughtering the Swiss Guard. This elevated pathway remains a silent testament to that desperate escape. Yet whispers persist of a more secretive network of subterranean tunnels beneath the Vatican, hidden passages perhaps known only to a select few. These rumored tunnels, imagined to snake beneath St. Peter's Basilica, the Apostolic Palace, and beyond Faced Gardens, are said to form a labyrinth of ancient catacombs or Roman ruins, used for clandestine meetings, treasure transport, or secret escapes. While unproven, these legends fuel the imagination, painting a picture of a clandestine Vatican beneath its sacred walls. The Angel of Castel Sant'Angelo. Across the Tiber River looms the imposing Castel Sant'Angelo, a fortress with a dark Kardashian history of the city-state's dark history. Originally Emperor Hadrian's mausoleum, it became a papal stronghold and prison. Atop its bronze statue of Archangel Michael, the angel's sword sheathed, a symbol of divine protection, stands legend-shrouded tales of its grim past as a place of incarceration. In 590 AD, during Soni, Pope Gregory the Great saw a vision of Archangel Michael sheathing his sword, a sign that the plague would end, a moment interpreted as divine mercy. The fortress was renamed Castel Sant'Angelo after Gregory's procession reached the mausoleum and the plague ceased. This is the legend of the imprisoned angel, a poignant tale of divine intervention and human suffering, bound to the Casalexef system. The rewritten text keeps the meaning intact while replacing the original words with synonyms or alternative phrasing, aiming to maintain the same tone and level of complexity. For example, Vatican City, synonymous with immense faith. Necropolis, ancient cemetery. Passetto di Borgo, elevated corridor. Secret tunnels, whispered Ishikawa. Passetto di Borgo. Secret underground passages. Castel Sant'Angelo, papal fortress and prison. Hidden knowledge, forbidden knowledge, hidden truths. Spectral figures, ghostly apparitions. Prophecy chart, prophecy that charts destinies. Whispered legends, whispered legends. Petros Eni, Greek for Peter is within. Aedicula, small shrine. Constantine, Emperor Constantine. Sampietrini, excavators. Mausoleums, ancient tombs. Graffiti, ancient inscriptions. Relics, bones. St. Peter's Basilica, Grand Basilica. Apostolic Palace, Papal Palace. Castel Sant'Angelo, Papal Fortress. Swiss Guard, Valiant Swiss Guard. Pope Clement VII, Pope Clement VII. Sack of Rome, brutal sack of Rome. System, here is a rephrased version of the text, keeping the meaning intact while replacing the original words with synonyms or alternative phrasing. Vatican City, a name synonymous with profound, great faith, and sacred mysteries. But behind its towering walls, locked archives, and hallowed halls lie centuries-old secrets, whispered legends, ghostly apparitions, and unsettling truths. Today, we venture into the heart of this enigmatic city-state, a place of profound belief, but also a labyrinth of ancient stones and whispered legends that challenge easy explanation. Beyond the gilded facade and solemn pistas, drift tales that crawl under the skin, spectral figures, prophecies, and forbidden knowledge. We're about to unlock 16 of the most chilling and captivating legends ever bound to these venerable, and perhaps vulnerable, walls. Are you ready to confront the shadows? Let's begin. The Vatican Necropolis and the Tomb of St. Peter. Imagine standing beneath the majestic St. Peter's Basilica, where the marble floors give way to a hidden city of carrot. System, the necropolis, an ancient cemetery beneath St. Peter's Basilica, is a sacred mystery. But its towering walls, locked archives, and hallowed halls conceal centuries-old secrets, whispered legends, and unsettling truths. Today, we journey deep into the heart of this enigmatic city-state, where faith, martyrdom, and ancient burial practices converge around. System, converge on ancient stones, encounter secret shrines, and unearth forbidden knowledge. The story begins nearly 2,000 years ago. The secret tunnels and the Passetto di Borgo. For centuries, the Vatican has been a spiritual haven and a political stronghold, often entangled in conflict, intrigue, and peril. But beneath its thick walls and deep dungeons lie tales of desperate flights, whispered legends, and forbidden knowledge. Beyond the gilded facade and solemn prayers drift stories that crawl under the skin, spectral figures, prophecies, and shadowy truths. We're about to unlock telomeres, the Vatican's best-kept secrets, whispered legends, ghostly apparitions, and sacred rituals that defy explanation. Beyond the ornate exterior, sacred mysteries, and ancient stones, there's a simple grave, a fisherman's tomb, and a complex aedicula, a small shrine built over it centuries earlier, where the bones of St. Peter were found, wrapped in purple cloth, the graffiti, Petros Eni, and the humble inscription, Petros Eni. The remains, believed to be those of a robust man from the 1st century, were carefully studied. The Passetto di Borgo and hidden tunnels. The tale of the Passetto di Borgo, that elevated corridor connecting the Vatican to Castel Sant'Angelo, is steeped in legend. But beneath the Grand Basilica lies a hidden city, a warren of ancient catacombs and secret passages, perhaps known only to a few. These subterranean tunnels, whispered about, fuel speculation of deeper mysteries, secret meetings, and desperate bearer of bad news, locked away in secret chambers, and the scent of ancient knowledge drifts away in whispers. Tales of shadowy figures, hidden truths, and forbidden secrets. We're about to explore the imprisoned angel, a poignant tale of divine mercy, and the eerie legend of the imprisoned angel. ***. The Angel of Castel Sant'Angelo. Atop the fortress of Castel Sant'Angelo stands a bronze statue of Archangel Michael, sword-sheathed. Yet the legend persists of an angel imprisoned within the castle walls, a divine figure locked away in a secret chamber. The tale tells of a spectral vision and a papal flight through a dark passage to escape danger. But the truth is far more complex, a divine vision of an angel, a holy figure, locked in a dungeon, the reality a grim prison. We're about to unravel 16 chilling and captivating legends surrounding the Vatican and its shadowy secrets. System, I apologize for the oversight regarding the passage of time. Could you please provide the specific sentence or phrase you want rewritten? System, here's a rephrased version with the original meaning intact, using different words and phrasing. Vatican City, a name synonymous with immense faith, is synonymous with profound spirituality. Yet, within its formidable walls lie locked archives, sacred mysteries, and secret passages. But behind these towering walls, centuries-old legends, whispered tales, and unsettling truths are revealed. Today. System, sure, I'll rewrite that part, keeping the meaning as close as possible to the original text. The original text reads: Beneath St. Peter's Basilica, in a secret chamber, a fisherman's tomb dug into the earth. But above the ancient catacombs and whispered legends, the bones of St. Peter were wrapped, says the Pope, the leader of the fishermen, was crucified upside down. His grave was simple, a fisherman's grave, but beneath that grave lies a hidden city of the dead. How can this radiant symbol of divine mercy and liberation stand perpetual vigil over a place so steeped in human misery and confinement? The legend suggests a poignant, almost tragic connection. Is the angel, having performed his act of deliverance from plague, now eternally bound to this place, forced to preside over centuries of subsequent suffering within its walls? Is his downward-pointing sword not just a sign of peace declared, but also a symbol of being fixed, rooted to this spot? The legend doesn't necessarily speak of a literal celestial being trapped in stone and bronze. Rather, it evokes a powerful feeling, a symbolic imprisonment. The angel, representing divine hope and freedom, seems ironically confined by the very fortress it names and guards. It stands as a constant, silent witness to the echoes of pain within the ancient stones below. Some might feel the angel absorbs the sorrow of the countless prisoners who languished within sight of its silhouette. Its vigil becomes less about triumph and more about sorrowful empathy. It offers the promise of heaven while standing guard over a man-made hell. Thus, the imprisoned angel of Castel Sant'Angelo is a legend born from juxtaposition. It intertwines the founding miracle of deliverance with the fortress's harsh reality as a prison. The magnificent statue of Michael becomes more than just a commemoration. It's a complex symbol of hope overlooking despair, forever bound to the castle's history, embodying the poignant paradox of divine light presiding silently over human darkness and captivity. The Phantom Swiss Guard. The Pontifical Swiss Guard, instantly recognizable in their vibrant Renaissance uniforms, design tradition holds by Michelangelo himself, are a living symbol of the Vatican. For over 5 centuries, these elite soldiers have dedicated their lives to the protection of the Pope and the Apostolic Palace, building a legacy of discipline and unwavering loyalty. Yet, within the ancient heart of the Vatican, legend whispers that for some guards, their solemn duty never truly. In some versions, Joan died immediately from childbirth or its complications. In others, the enraged crowd, shocked by the deception and sacrilege, fell upon her and killed her, and possibly her child, right there on the spot. Still other variations suggest she was quietly deposed and imprisoned in a convent to live out her days in penance. But her story, in the realm of legend, doesn't end with her death or deposition. It's said that her spirit, forever marked by the trauma of her exposure and violent end, haunts the very area where her secret was revealed. Whispers claim her ghost, sometimes seen as a mournful figure in papal vestments or heard weeping in despair, lingers along the route of that fateful procession, particularly on the Vicus Papissa, the Street of the Lady Pope, a name some alleys in Rome were once rumored to hold. Others imagine her spectral presence within the shadowy corridors of the Vatican itself, a restless reminder of the woman who broke the ultimate taboo. The legend was reinforced over centuries by related folklore, such as the claim that subsequent papal processions deliberately avoided the street of her downfall, or the story of the sedia stultaria, a ceremonial chair with a hole in the seat supposedly used to briefly check the sex of newly elected popes, a practice now widely debunked by historians and likely related to other symbolic enthronement rituals. It is crucial to state that the overwhelming consensus among modern historians is that Pope Joan never actually existed. There is no reliable contemporary evidence from the period she supposedly lived, and the established chronology of popes leaves no room for her reign. The story likely originated centuries later, possibly as anti-papal satire, a cautionary tale, or a misunderstanding of Roman folklore or artifacts. Yet, despite being relegated to the realm of fiction by historical scholarship, the legend of Pope Joan remains incredibly potent. Her tale, and the chilling idea of her ghost haunting the heart of Rome, persists as a powerful narrative about ambition, identity, forbidden knowledge, transgression, and the potential for secrets to lie hidden even in the most sacred spaces. The Curse of Pope Pius IX. Pope Pius IX, known affectionately as Pio IX, holds the record for the longest papal reign in history, serving from 1846 to 1878. His time as pope was marked by significant theological pronouncements, like the definition of the Immaculate Conception and papal infallibility. However, it was also defined by immense political upheaval, specifically the loss of the papal states and the temporal power the papacy had held for over 1,000 years. It's from this bitter conflict that the legend of the curse of Pope Pius IX arises, not necessarily a curse uttered in a single moment, but rather a belief among some devout Catholics that divine retribution or a long shadow of misfortune fell upon those who opposed him and seized the Church's lands. The heart of the conflict was the Risorgimento, the unification of Italy. As the new Kingdom of Italy consolidated its power, it encroached upon the territories ruled directly by the Pope. Pius IX fiercely resisted this, seeing it not just as a political loss but as an attack on the Church itself. He issued encyclicals condemning the actions and, crucially, wielded the spiritual weapon of excommunication against those involved in seizing church property and, ultimately, Rome itself in 1870. When Italian troops breached the Aurelian walls and captured the city, Pius IX declared himself the prisoner in the Vatican, refusing to accept the legitimacy of the Italian state or leave the Vatican's confines. This dramatic stand set the stage for the perceived curse. The primary target, in the eyes of those who believe in the curse, was King Victor Emmanuel II of Italy, the monarch who presided over the final seizure of Rome. Having been excommunicated by Pius IX, his fate was closely watched. Strikingly, Victor Emmanuel II died relatively young in January 1878. Though he reportedly received last rites under political pressure, his death occurred just weeks before Pius IX himself passed away in February 1878. Believers saw this timing, the king dying before the pope he had effectively imprisoned, as no coincidence, but rather the first clear sign of divine displeasure, the curse taking effect upon the chief architect of the pope's temporal downfall. The perceived shadow extended further, particularly over the House of Savoy, Victor Emmanuel II's royal dynasty. His son and successor, King Umberto I, met a violent end, assassinated by an anarchist in 1900. Umberto's own son, King Victor Emmanuel III, then reigned through the tumultuous first half of the 20th century, overseeing Italy's involvement in 2 world wars and the rise and fall of Mussolini's fascist regime. His reign ended ignominiously with the abolition of the Italian monarchy in 1946, forcing the House of Savoy into exile. For those looking for evidence of the curse, this succession of tragedies and the ultimate loss of the throne appeared as a long-term consequence, a ripple effect stemming from the original offense against Pius IX and the Holy See. This curse, therefore, is generally understood less as a specific magical hex and more as a pattern of misfortune interpreted through a lens of faith. It's seen as the tangible result of defying the Pope, ignoring excommunication, which carries grave spiritual weight for believers, and violating sacred property and tradition. It speaks to a belief in divine justice, where actions against God's vicar on earth inevitably bring about negative consequences, even if they unfold over generations. While historians analyze the complex political, social, and military factors that shaped Italian unification and the subsequent history of Italy and its monarchy, the legend of the curse of Pope Pius IX offers a different perspective. It views this pivotal era through the framework of spiritual cause and effect, suggesting that the challenges faced by those who diminished the Pope's temporal power were not mere historical accidents, but the enduring legacy of opposing the longest reigning pontiff during one of the Church's most profound crises. Legends of the Borgia Pope. The papacy of Rodrigo Borgia, who reigned as Pope Alexander VI from 1492 to 1503, is one of the most infamous and controversial periods in the history of the Catholic Church. While undoubtedly a skilled administrator and diplomat, his time on the throne of St. Peter became legendary for its alleged corruption, ruthless ambition, flagrant nepotism, and rumors of truly shocking depravity. These stories, whether entirely true or embellished by enemies, have created a dark legend that still clings to his memory and, some say, to the very walls of the Vatican apartments he once inhabited. Alexander VI's papacy was marked by his open promotion of his children, most notably the ambitious Cesare Borgia and the notorious Lucrezia Borgia, using papal power and wealth to carve out territories and forge alliances for his family. Whispers in Rome and across Europe spoke of simony having bought the papacy through bribes, lavish banquets that descended into orgies, the poisoning of cardinals and rivals to seize their wealth or eliminate threats, and even darker rumors of incestuous relationships. While separating historical fact from slanderous propaganda after centuries is difficult, the sheer volume and persistence of these accusations cemented the Borgias as synonymous with the Church's most worldly and corrupt excesses. Central to the Borgia legend within the Vatican are the Borgia apartments, a suite of opulent rooms within the apostolic palace that Alexander VI had lavishly decorated by the artist Pinturicchio. These rooms, filled with stunning frescoes depicting religious and mythological scenes, were the heart of Borgia power and where many of the alleged plots, poisonings, and illicit affairs were rumored to have taken place. While beautiful, they retain an history is often stranger and more terrifying than fiction, and few events prove this better than the notorious Cadaver Synod, or Synodus Horrenda. This isn't a tale of shadowy ghosts or hidden artifacts in the conventional sense, but the legend surrounding a real, macabre event that unfolded in Rome in 897 AD, casting a long, dark shadow over papal history. Imagine the scene: the Lateran Basilica, then the primary cathedral and seat of the Pope in Rome. But this is no ordinary church council. Presiding is Pope Stephen VI, consumed by political hatred for his predecessor, Pope Formosus. Though Formosus has been dead and buried for several months, Stephen orders his rotting corpse to be exhumed. What happens next is almost too ghastly to believe. The decomposing body of Pope Formosus is dressed in full papal vestments, propped up on a throne in the basilica, and subjected to a posthumous trial. The charges levied against the corpse included perjury, violating canon law by supposedly serving as bishop of two places simultaneously, and illegitimately coveting the papacy. A young deacon, trembling with fear, was appointed to stand beside the corpse and answer the accusations on its behalf. The outcome was predetermined. The dead Pope Formosus was found guilty. In a final act of ritual humiliation, the papal vestments were stripped from the decaying body. Then, the 3 fingers on his right hand, the fingers he would have used for blessings, were hacked off. The mutilated corpse was initially buried in a common grave reserved for foreigners. But even that wasn't the end. Driven by fury or perhaps fear, Stephen VI later had the body dug up again and ignominiously thrown into the Tiber River. Now, history blends with legend and divine retribution. Some accounts say fishermen, astonished, later pulled the remarkably preserved body from the Tiber, or that it was recovered by monks, leading to its eventual reburial. Historical sources do suggest it was recovered and eventually reinterred with honor. But the immediate aftermath for the instigator, Pope Stephen VI was swift and grim. An earthquake struck Rome shortly after the synod, damaging the Lateran Basilica, an event widely interpreted by the populace as a sign of God's fury over the desecration. Public outrage against Stephen VI grew rapidly. Within months of the Cadaver Synod, he was overthrown, imprisoned, and ultimately strangled to death. This swift and violent end for Stephen VI is intrinsically linked to the legend of the Cadaver Synod, seen as a direct consequence for his horrific act. Furthermore, legends inevitably arose from such trauma. Whispers might speak of the restless, mutilated ghost of Pope Formosus haunting the Lateran or the banks of the Tiber, seeking justice or peace. Others might imagine the tormented spirit of Stephen VI, forever bound to the scene of his grotesque triumph and subsequent downfall. The Cadaver Synod itself was eventually nullified by subsequent popes. Formosus's ordinations were declared valid again, and the practice of putting dead bodies on trial was formally forbidden. Yet, the event remains a chilling historical marker, a stark reminder of the brutal depths reached during periods of intense factionalism and political chaos surrounding the papacy in the so-called Dark Ages. It's a true story so horrific and bizarre it functions as one of Rome's darkest legends, a testament to the volatile mix of piety, power, and ruthlessness that sometimes characterized the struggle for St. Peter's throne. The devil in the Vatican. The very idea seems almost unthinkable, the presence of ultimate evil, the devil himself or his demonic forces, operating within the sacred confines of Vatican City. Yet, this unsettling notion persists, not just as a theological concept of temptation, but as a recurring theme in legends, whispers, and even stark warnings from within the Church itself. It's a legend that speaks to the eternal battle between good and evil, potentially playing out on the most consecrated ground. Perhaps the most famous articulation of this fear came from Pope Paul VI in 1972. During a homily, he spoke gravely of his sense that, from some fissure, the smoke of Satan has entered the temple of God. While often interpreted symbolically, referring to internal division, secularization, doubt, or turmoil within the Church following Vatican II, his powerful words also resonated with those who feared a more literal, insidious presence of evil working to undermine the papacy and the Church from within. Beyond symbolic interpretations, the legend takes on darker, more tangible forms. There are persistent, though often unsubstantiated, whispers and conspiracy theories about demonic influence directly impacting events or individuals within the Vatican walls. These tales might suggest shadowy figures wielding undue influence, decisions subtly guided by dark forces, or even hidden cults practicing forbidden rites within unnoticed corners of the ancient city-state. Such stories feed on the Vatican's inherent secrecy and complexity, imagining unseen spiritual battles raging behind the ornate facades. The existence and work of Vatican-sanctioned exorcists, like the late, well-known Father Gabriele Amorth, chief exorcist of Rome for many years, add another layer to the legend. While their primary work involves helping individuals afflicted by demonic possession or oppression far beyond the Vatican's borders, their very role serves as an official acknowledgement of the reality of demonic forces. Father Amorth himself was known for his stark claims, including his belief that satanic influences could, and sometimes did, penetrate even the Vatican's hierarchy, suggesting a spiritual war whose front lines could potentially reach the Church's nerve center. Furthermore, the Vatican, with its centuries of history, immense collection of artifacts tying back into the secret library legends and labyrinthine structures, provides fertile ground for stories about specific locations or objects perhaps tainted by dark energy or associated with past evils. While concrete evidence is absent, the atmosphere of ancient power and hidden history allows such unsettling possibilities to linger in the imagination. Real-world scandals, tragedies, or unexplained events within the Vatican are also sometimes viewed through this lens by those inclined to see more than just human failing at play, interpreting them as signs of a deeper, malevolent interference. Ultimately, the legend of the devil in the Vatican persists as a powerful, multifaceted narrative, whether understood as a literal fear of demonic entities stalking the apostolic palace, or as a profound metaphor for the constant, insidious struggle against corruption, temptation, and the mystery of iniquity within the human heart, even in the most sacred of places. The idea holds a chilling fascination. It speaks to the core theological concept of spiritual warfare, the belief that good and evil are locked in a constant struggle, and the deeply unsettling thought that darkness perpetually seeks to infiltrate and corrupt even the very center of the light. The Vatican's Secret Library. For centuries, persistent whispers and compelling rumors have spoken of a repository of knowledge within the Vatican that exists far beyond the public or even scholarly eye, a truly secret library, or perhaps an unacknowledged, profoundly hidden section of the existing archives. This legendary place is imagined to hold documents and texts considered too potent, too perilous, or too fundamentally challenging to the established order to ever be revealed to the outside world. Now, it's vital to touch upon the reality. First, the Vatican city-state is indeed the custodian of two immensely vast and historically priceless collections. The Vatican Apostolic Library, Biblioteca Apostolica Vaticana, counted among the oldest libraries globally, safeguarding invaluable manuscripts, ancient books, and prints, and the Vatican Apostolic Archive, Archivum Apostolicum Vaticanum, which many still know by its former name, the Vatican Secret Archives. It's worth remembering that the term secret historically signified private, pertaining to the Pope's personal records rather than concealed in the way we might think today. These archives house an astonishing accumulation of centuries' worth of papal correspondence, crucial state papers, intricate historical records, and documents detailing the Church's administration and global diplomacy, an unparalleled resource for historians, although access is carefully regulated and typically reserved for accredited scholars pursuing specific research. But the enduring legend of the secret library ventures far beyond these acknowledged institutions. It conjures images of something far more profound, more deliberately obscured. This legend paints a picture of labyrinthine vaults extending deep beneath the Vatican's familiar structures, containing mile upon mile of shelving, holding secrets the Church has purportedly guarded across millennia. And what phenomenal secrets might they contain? This is where the legend truly ignites the imagination. It's rumored this hidden collection might house world-altering items, suppressed religious texts, perhaps Gospels offering radically different views of Jesus or early Christianity that were deliberately excluded from the Bible, lost ancient wisdom, possibly scrolls spirited away from the Library of Alexandria, containing forgotten knowledge of ancient science or philosophy, potent occult grimoires and books of magic gathered and sequestered by the Church to prevent their misuse, highly detailed prophecies, maybe including the unredacted third secret of Fatima or other revelations deemed too disturbing, concrete proof of historical conspiracies or hidden truths that could rewrite our understanding of the past, or even tangible evidence of extraterrestrial contact, meticulously collected and concealed. According to the lore, access to this truly clandestine collection is fiercely restricted, perhaps available only to the reigning pope himself or maybe to a very small, elite circle of high-ranking cardinals or anciently sworn librarians. Why maintain such profound secrecy? Those who give credence to the legend propose various motives: the desire to shield the faith of billions from potentially shattering truths, the need to prevent dangerous knowledge from falling into the wrong hands, the imperative to maintain the Church's authority, or perhaps the simple necessity of hiding inconvenient historical facts that contradict official narratives. Much of this captivating legend finds fertile ground in the very real vastness and the inherent limitations on access to the actual Vatican library and archives. With millions of documents held within, many still uncatalogued or requiring specific high-level permissions to view, it becomes easy for the human imagination to populate those unknown spaces with the most extraordinary possibilities. The centuries of accumulated history, immense power, and pervasive mystery surrounding the Vatican naturally invite such speculation. Therefore, while the Vatican undeniably safeguards one of the planet's most significant collections of historical documents and literature within its venerable apostolic library and archive, the compelling idea of a separate, truly hidden secret library brimming with forbidden esoteric knowledge, lost gospels, and paradigm-destroying secrets remains exactly that, a powerful and enduring legend. It speaks volumes about our timeless fascination with hidden knowledge, the allure of the unknown, and the unique mystique surrounding an institution poised for centuries at the crossroads of history, faith, and power. There is no verifiable scientific proof that the Chronovisor ever existed. The alleged photograph of Christ was strongly argued and largely accepted to be merely a reversed image of an existing postcard depicting a wood carving. Father Ernetti's own accounts were sometimes contradictory, and reports of a supposed deathbed confession confirming the machine's existence remain disputed and unverified. Mainstream science considers the theoretical basis described for the Chronovisor to be highly implausible. Despite the lack of concrete evidence and its dismissal by scientific and church authorities, the legend of the Chronovisor endures with remarkable tenacity. It taps into deep-seated desires, the wish to unravel the mysteries of the past, the allure of secret Vatican knowledge, and the fascinating intersection of faith, science, and forbidden technology. It remains one of the most captivating what-ifs whispered about the Vatican, the tale of a machine that could unlock history, deemed too powerful to exist, and now supposedly gathering dust in some forgotten chamber, a testament to secrets the world might not be ready for. The Vatican Astronomer and the Lucifer Telescope. It sounds like the plot of a thriller novel, the Vatican, the ancient seat of the Catholic Church, involved with a powerful astronomical instrument bearing the name Lucifer. This startling connection has inevitably sparked a constellation of conspiracy theories and legends, blending real scientific endeavors with sensational speculation about what the Church might be seeking in the heavens. First, the reality. The Vatican has been involved in astronomy for centuries. The Vatican Observatory, Scuola Vaticana, is one of the oldest astronomical institutions in the world, staffed primarily by highly trained Jesuit priests and brothers who are dedicated scientists. They conduct serious, respected research into everything from asteroids and meteorites to distant galaxies and cosmology, operating facilities both near Rome at Castel Gandolfo and under the clear desert skies of Arizona at the Mount Graham International Observatory, MGIO. At MGIO, the Vatican operates its own Advanced Telescope, VATT, and is also a partner in the much larger Large Binocular Telescope, LBT, project, alongside major American, Italian, and German institutions. Now, enter the source of the legend. For the powerful LBT, a consortium of German institutes built a sophisticated, cutting-edge instrument designed to capture faint light in the infrared spectrum, perfect for peering into dusty star-forming regions or studying the distant universe. They gave it a technical, descriptive acronym, LUCIFER, which stood for Large Binocular Telescope Near-Infrared Utility with Camera and Integral Field Unit for Extragalactic Research. Scientifically, it was a functional label. However, attaching the name Lucifer, almost universally associated with the devil, to an instrument used on a telescope project involving the Vatican was like lighting a match in a fireworks factory. The connection, however indirect, the Vatican didn't build or name the instrument. They were just partners on the telescope it was attached to, was simply too provocative to ignore. Conspiracy theorists and religious speculators immediately seized upon it. Wild theories erupted online and in fringe media. Was the Vatican deliberately using an instrument named after the devil? Were Vatican astronomers using Lucifer to secretly search for Planet X, Nibiru, proof of aliens, hidden messages from God, signs of the apocalypse, or perhaps even hunting for Lucifer himself? Was the name proof of satanic infiltration or hidden agendas within the Vatican's scientific arm? The irony, often lost in the furor, is that Lucifer originally means light-bringer in Latin, often referring to the planet Venus as the morning star and symbolically representing enlightenment, a fitting idea for an instrument designed to gather light. But the darker connotation inevitably overshadowed the benign scientific origin. The controversy grew to the point where, understandably, the instrument was eventually renamed. It is now known simply as LUCI, LBT Utility Camera in the Infrared. Of course, for those already convinced of a conspiracy, the renaming was merely seen as an attempt to hide the original, supposedly sinister truth. In reality, the Jesuit astronomers associated with the Vatican Observatory continue their quiet, meticulous work, contributing valuable data to the scientific community, studying God's creation through the lens of science, and bridging the worlds of faith and reason. Their research involves the natural universe, stars, planets, galaxies, not devils or mythical doomsday planets. The legend of the Vatican astronomer and the Lucifer telescope thus serves as a fascinating case study in how an unfortunate coincidence of naming can spark widespread speculation and mistrust, especially when linked to an institution like the Vatican, perpetually shrouded in a degree of mystery. It highlights the sometimes comical, sometimes concerning clash between technical scientific language and popular interpretation, reminding us that sometimes the devil really is just in the details, or, in this case, an acronym. The sudden death of the smiling Pope. In August 1978, Cardinal Albino Luciani was elected Pope, taking the name John Paul I. Known for his warmth, humility, and an instantly iconic smile that earned him the nickname, the Smiling Pope, his election was met with joy and hope for a more pastoral, less formal papacy. But the hope was tragically short-lived. Just 33 days after becoming Pope, John Paul I was found dead in his bed in the Apostolic Palace on the morning of September 28, 1978. His reign was one of the shortest in papal history, and the abruptness of his death immediately ignited suspicions and theories that persist to this day. The official Vatican announcement stated that Pope John Paul I died of a myocardial infarction, a heart attack, likely during the night. He was found in his bed, reportedly with reading material nearby. While seemingly straightforward, certain details in the handling of the immediate aftermath sowed seeds of doubt in the public mind and created fertile ground for conspiracy theories. Questions arose almost immediately. Initial reports about who discovered the body seemed inconsistent. Was it his secretary or the nuns who brought his morning coffee? More significantly, the Vatican announced that no autopsy would be performed, citing that it was not customary for popes. This decision, while potentially adhering to tradition, struck many as odd given the suddenness of the death of a relatively young pope. He was 65, and became a major fuel source for speculation. Were they hiding something? Further rumors circulated about whether papers he had been reviewing the night before, perhaps concerning sensitive Vatican affairs, were disturbed or missing from his room. While John Paul I had experienced health issues earlier in his life, many felt he appeared reasonably healthy upon his election, making a fatal heart attack seem suspiciously convenient to some. This combination of a surprisingly short reign, a sudden death, and perceived inconsistencies or lack of transparency from the Vatican led to the emergence of numerous conspiracy theories, suggesting foul play. The most prominent and enduring of these theories center on the idea that John Paul I was murdered, likely by poisoning, because he was planning significant changes that threatened powerful established interests. Speculation often focuses on the Vatican Bank, Istituto per l'Opera di Religione, or IOR, and its controversial head at the time, Archbishop Paul Marcinkus. The bank was embroiled in murky financial dealings linked to figures like Michele Sindona and Roberto Calvi, and connected to the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano and the clandestine P2 Masonic Lodge. Legend holds that John Paul I, seeking reform and transparency, was poised to investigate the IOR, potentially clean house, remove Marcinkus, and expose embarrassing or illicit activities. Was he silenced before he could act? Theories suggest powerful figures connected to the bank, P2, or even the mafia saw him as a direct threat and orchestrated his death. Other theories propose motives related to internal church politics. Did conservative factions within the Vatican Curia oppose his perceived progressive leanings, his simpler style, or potential appointments he planned to make? Could they have seen his removal as necessary to maintain their power or doctrinal direction? While less commonly cited than the financial angle, this adds another layer to the intrigue. Books like David Yallop's highly controversial bestseller In God's Name laid out a detailed case for murder, presenting circumstantial evidence and timelines that convinced many readers, even though definitive proof remains elusive, and the book's claims are heavily disputed by the Vatican and others. The Vatican has consistently maintained that Pope John Paul I died of natural causes and has dismissed the murder theories as baseless speculation. Yet, the lack of an autopsy, the swirling rumors about financial scandals and internal opposition, and the undeniable shock of a papacy extinguished after only 33 days have cemented his death as one of the great Vatican mysteries of the 20th century. Was he simply a frail man overwhelmed by the immense burden of the papacy? Or was the beloved smiling pope silenced before he could truly begin his work? The unanswered questions ensure that his brief, hopeful reign and sudden, puzzling end remain a compelling and unsettling Vatican legend. The disappearance of Emanuela Orlandi. This isn't a tale echoing from centuries past, but a chilling modern enigma born on a summer day in 1983. Its unresolved questions cast a long, dark shadow over the Vatican to this day. Emanuela Orlandi was just 15 years old, the daughter of a lay employee of the Holy See, and her family lived inside the supposedly secure walls of Vatican City. On June 22, 1983, after attending her regular music lesson in central Rome, she vanished utterly. What began as every parent's nightmare, a missing child, rapidly escalated into one of Italy's and the Vatican's most baffling and persistent mysteries. The case took bizarre and sinister turns almost immediately. Strange phone calls plagued the family and authorities. Some callers claimed responsibility, others offered cryptic, often cruel clues. Most disturbingly, Emanuela's disappearance was quickly and publicly linked to high-stakes international intrigue. Demands were made for the release of Mehmet Ali Agca, Pope John Paul II's would-be assassin, implying Emanuela was a hostage, a pawn in a dangerous global game. This instantly lifted the case beyond a simple abduction, placing the Vatican itself at the turbulent center of a terrifying puzzle. Over the 4 decades that have passed since Emanuela disappeared, the crushing lack of concrete answers has created a vacuum. And that vacuum has been filled by a disturbing vortex of chilling theories and speculations, transforming her tragic story into a potent modern legend shrouded in conspiracy and suspicion. Initial links to international intrigue soon broadened, with suspicion falling on Cold War maneuvers and espionage, suggesting Emanuela might have been used to pressure the Vatican regarding Poland's solidarity movement or Agca's murky background. Other lines of speculation pointed towards the murky world of Vatican finances, connecting her disappearance to the notorious scandals surrounding the Vatican Bank (IOR) and the collapse of Banco Ambrosiano in the early 1980s, perhaps as leverage or because she inadvertently learned a dangerous secret. The shadow of organized crime also loomed large, with persistent theories implicating powerful Roman syndicates like the Banda della Magliana, possibly over debts owed by Vatican figures as political operatives or even in connection with the gang leader Enrico de Pedis, whose controversial burial in a Vatican-associated basilica only deepened suspicions for years. Perhaps the most disturbing theories delve into secrets allegedly held within the Vatican walls themselves, suggesting Emanuela might have stumbled upon or become a victim of internal scandals, potentially involving sexual exploitation or abuse, leading to her silencing. Often, these different threads intertwine in complex narratives involving multiple shadowy factions potentially working together. What makes the Emanuela Orlandi case such a persistent and haunting legend is the confluence of factors: her youth, her unique status as a Vatican citizen living within its walls, the immediate connections to global politics and crime, the sheer range of powerful entities implicated in various theories, and, critically, the decades of silence and lack of resolution. Accusations of secrecy and insufficient cooperation have sometimes been leveled at the Vatican over the years, fairly or unfairly, further fueling the sense of a cover-up or hidden truths. Despite investigations being reopened periodically by both Italian authorities and, more recently, the Vatican itself, Emanuela Orlandi's fate remains unknown. Her disappearance has thus transcended a tragic missing person case to become a powerful modern legend of the Vatican. It embodies widespread fears and suspicions about hidden dealings, powerful conspiracies, and dark secrets potentially concealed within seemingly impenetrable walls. The unanswered questions and the vortex of chilling theories ensure that Emanuela's story remains an unsettling enigma, a haunting question mark casting a long shadow right into the heart of the Holy See. The Third Secret of Fatima. Our story begins not in Rome but in the humble fields of Fatima, Portugal, back in 1917. 3 young shepherd children, Lucia dos Santos and her cousins Francisco and Jacinta Marto, reported experiencing apparitions of the Virgin Mary. Over several months, Mary shared messages with them, including 3 prophetic secrets. The first 2 secrets were eventually revealed by Lucia, the eldest and longest-living visionary. They contained a terrifying vision of hell, a prophecy about the end of World War I and the beginning of an even worse conflict, World War II, and the rise of communism in Russia, calling for the consecration of Russia to Mary's Immaculate Heart. These were profound, but it was the third secret that would become shrouded in decades of intense mystery and speculation. At the request of the local bishop, Lucia wrote down the third secret in 1944. She placed it in a sealed envelope, stipulating that it should not be opened before 1960, believing its meaning would be clearer then. The envelope was entrusted to the Vatican. 1960 came and went. Pope John XI reportedly opened and read the secret but chose not to reveal it, supposedly remarking, "This prophecy does not relate to my time." His successor, Pope Paul VI, also read it and maintained the silence. This papal secrecy fueled decades of feverish speculation worldwide. What could be so sensitive or potentially devastating? Theories ran wild: nuclear apocalypse, widespread apostasy within the church hierarchy, the exact date for the end of the world, specific calamities targeting popes. The mystery only deepened with time. Then came May 13, 1981, the anniversary of the very first Fatima apparition in St. Peter's Square. Pope John Paul II was shot in an assassination attempt. He survived, gravely wounded, and firmly believed his life was spared through the direct intervention of Our Lady of Fatima. He later had the bullet extracted from him, placed in the crown of the statue of Mary at the Fatima shrine. John Paul II became convinced that the third secret was intimately connected to the suffering and persecutions of the 20th century, culminating in the attack on his own life. Finally, in the Jubilee year 2000, during a ceremony in Fatima where he beatified Francisco and Jacinta, Pope John Paul II directed the Vatican to officially publish the text of the third secret. The revealed text described a vision, a bishop dressed in white, interpreted by the visionaries and the Vatican as the Pope, struggling up a steep mountain towards a large wooden cross. He passes through a large city half in ruins, filled with pain and sorrow, stepping over the corpses of many dead. Upon reaching the summit, as he kneels at the foot of the cross, he is killed by a group of soldiers firing bullets and arrows. Many other bishops, priests, religious figures, and laypeople are killed alongside him in the same manner. Angels then appear, collecting the blood of these martyrs in crystal vessels to sprinkle upon souls making their way to God. The official Vatican interpretation, presented by then Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, later Pope Benedict XVI, described the vision as a symbolic representation of the Church's difficult journey through the 20th century, the struggles against atheistic regimes, the persecution of believers, and the suffering of popes. The climax, according to this interpretation, was the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II, where a mother's hand guided the bullet's path, allowing him to survive what the vision depicted as a fatal attack. However, the revelation didn't end the speculation entirely. Some groups devoted to the Fatima message, Fatimists, remain unconvinced that the entire secret was revealed or dispute the official interpretation. They point to perceived discrepancies or believe there are further parts, perhaps concerning internal church crises or future events, that remain locked away. Thus, the third secret of Fatima remains a powerful legend, a story that journeyed from 3 children in a Portuguese field to a sealed envelope in the Vatican archives, generating decades of global intrigue before its dramatic, yet still debated, unveiling tied directly to a pivotal, near-fatal moment in papal history. Conclusion. And so, we emerge from the shadowy depths of Vatican legend back into the light, but perhaps not entirely unchanged. We've walked with phantom popes, decoded cryptic prophecies, and questioned the very nature of the secrets held within these ancient walls. Where history ends and legend begins, within the Vatican remains, perhaps, its greatest enigma. These 16 tales are threads in a tapestry woven from faith, power, fear, and the undeniable weight of centuries. What truly lies hidden there? The Vatican guards its secrets well. Which of these chilling stories resonated most with you? Which shadow stretched longest in your imagination? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm truly fascinated to hear which legend captured your curiosity. Thank you for venturing into the mystery with me. Until our next exploration.